Hey everyone, this is Wester70 with tips and tricks for Haven and Hearth. Today we're going to take a look at setting up homesteads and villages and some of the reasons for their placement and purpose. One of the goals of this video is to show you different village locations, and in order to do that I used Algolith's World 5 map to get screenshots of various village locations. And in those screenshots I've highlighted things that I think that are important towards village locating and things like this. So as you listen to the narrative for this video, the soundtrack or the video part of it will actually be composed of screenshots and close-ups of different environments and terrains. So that's how this one's going to be going, and I thank you for listening, and here we go. When I first started out at Haven and Hearth, I was a hermit and was determined to survive where I landed. As a consequence, I had no concerns for location. I almost starved. In the beginning of World 6, I was a bit more savvy, and the first thing I looked for was fishing spots. Fishing was relatively easy and could yield various fish products, including curios, that would help your character grow. In World 5, fishing saved my character 3 times because I had found a fishing spot that was pretty much restricted to brill, which gave my avatar strength and allowed me to survive 3 boar attacks. I was using the classic game rather than the Ender's client at the time. In this video I'm using screenshots of World 5 taken from Algolith's, which you can find in the Haven and Hearth forum under Wizard's Tower World 6 mapping. As I wandered about exploring World 5, I came across different habitats with different animals and resources, including chickens, sheep, and cows. It also became clear as I progressed up the foraging chart that habitats had their own unique opportunities and items. When 2 or more habitats are adjacent to each other, it is called an ecotone. These environmental zones offer different communities of plants and animals that offer diversity to your diet, but also provide unique resource opportunities such as clay. Moors, heaths, and grassland have mufflin, auroch, and chickens. Forests have bears, boars, deers, rabbits, and so on. The wiki Ring of Brogar can provide you with a detailed list of terrain and the plants, animals, forageables, and curios you can obtain from each. As an archaeologist, you perform systematic surveys to find prehistoric deposits and sites, but you always pay greater attention to these locations where rivers meet oceans, where plains rise up to hills, and forests meet grasslands. In other words, where ecotones meet. In Haven and Hearth, grasslands are clearly a preference for villages. At this point, we would consider an ideal location, one in which you had multiple habitats and a diversity of fishing opportunities, but that is really just the beginning of the decision-making process. Another important factor is when you come into the game. If you start at the beginning of a new world, your decision-making process is pretty much open to anything. If you come into the world a couple of months after it starts, you will find significant limitations to what you can do. In the forums for Haven and Hearth, one player said the first thing he did at the beginning of a newer world was to build a boat and to start looking for caves. Caves are finite. Only so many, and if you're into a village life, you're gonna need metal to progress, and caves offer the quickest, but not the only way to metal. Other similar factors are to consider are soil quality, water quality, clay quality, and other resources. The better the quality means your product will be stronger, have greater duration, and ultimately a higher value in trade. Finding a convergence of all these resources may be impossible, but it is something you should consider quite early, like right now. If you spend all your time looking for the perfect location, you may never find any place to settle. Decide what are the most important factors to you and go for them. Also decide what your long-term goals are. Should it be a hermit, a villager, or ultimately should it be both? As you progress in the game, it is quite possible and likely that you may have more than one location as your property, using alts as your means to obtain more than one claim. Currently in World 6 I have 3 claims using alts, 2 habitations, and 1 cave. My first habitation was located near where I originated at. It had 4 different habitats and several different fishing locations. Soil and water quality were not so good, and there was no clay. Farming, ceramics, making of bricks, kilns, and other products were severely hampered by the lack of these resources. Intending to overcome these deficiencies, I decided to forage for them and to stay where I was at. Foraging for clay, I ran into another factor that will affect your homestead or village placement, which is your neighbors. I was visiting a nearby lake and found a dozen boats tied up along the shore. No players, but obviously those boats meant a lot of people, but more importantly, a lot of coordinated players. It would be wrong for me to assume they were out raiding, but then again, I didn't see any picnic baskets. Not long after, a nearby village was raided and then essentially abandoned. Then the chieftain statues appeared in the margin of the land I was living in. The statues signaled the intent of the village to expand into my area. Since I was not in a village of my own, I decided to look for an alternate location in the event that my first location was overcome. After looking over the maps developed by Algerlith, I found a place relatively free of villages, had multiple habitats, but only mediocre clay. The best clay I had already been claimed, and one or more mines had also been claimed. Satisfied that I had achieved a reasonable degree of resource opportunities in isolation, I built a second homestead. It didn't take more than a week before another house appeared next to my new one. In this episode, I've concentrated on finding and building homesteads, but most of the information is applicable for villages too. Do not assume that every village you see is the same kind of place. Some villages are for habitation, some for specialized functions such as mining, some are to control waterways and resources, while others are farming support for warriors. I hope you find this information valuable, and I urge you to start thinking of what you will do and why in the next world. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Thanks.